members of parliament, development partners, government officials, the media, distinguished, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here representing my senior minister who is out in the field on official duty. I wish to greet all of you. Good morning. It is my great pleasure to be here today to address you at this inaugural Energy Muktano. I understand the theme for this Muktano is sustainable energy and economic development. As such, I'm glad to join you and speak to you on the new energy sector in Uganda. As you may be aware, Uganda is currently implementing the next phase of our development agenda, guided by the Vision 2040, the National Development Plan 3, and the Manifesto for NRM 2021-2026. And this one is guided by specific policies in my sector, plans, and legislation. For us to achieve sustainable economic growth as a country, there is need to recognize the economic growth needs to manifest in a manner that is inclusive. The theme for the Energy Conference, Sustainable Energy and Economic Development, ties in with the Sustainable Energy Development Program under NDP 3, which is being implemented now by my ministry. The objectives of this program in my ministry are four. One, increase energy access and utilization. Two, increase installed generation capacity. Three, increase adoption to clean energy utilization. And four, promote utilization of efficient energy technologies and appliances. Government, therefore, continues to prioritize the energy subsector because of its socio-economic transformative aspects, as evidenced in the above Sustainable Development Program objectives. This is also evident in the NRM Manifesto 2021 and 26, Securing Your Future, because of the sector's contribution towards job and wealth creation in the country. Energy is structural. Energy is a structural imperative that feeds the reserves of, in terms of value addition of our natural resources, increases the competitiveness of our exports. It also has the ability to stem the tide of the 21st century challenges, such as the need to mitigate and adapt climate change. This is quite important because we have got to sustainably use our natural resources. I would wish to provide updates on the sector. The energy sector in Uganda is made up of many players, ranging from my ministry, Electricity Generation Authority, Electricity Generation, Electricity Regulatory Authority, which are both public interventions, and then the private sector. The transmission company and distribution companies also play a major role. And the major stakeholders in the private sector also include the solar service providers. Investments in generation over the past 15 years has increased, with a total installed generation capacity being 1,268.9 megawatts, of which 1,236 megawatts supplies the main grid, and we have others which actually are supplied off grid. For example, 13.9 megawatts is off grid, off the main grid, and 18.7 megawatts is for own consumption, which is mainly by Bagase cogeneration plants against peak demand of 736 megawatts. Our demand for energy is quite low against the power which is generated. The generation is now way above 1,200 megawatts, but at peak, we demand 736 megawatts only. This more than tenfold increase from 160 megawatts that the country had less than 2 decades ago. This capacity is poised to increase to about 2,000 megawatts after the completion of Karuma hydroelectric power, which is expected to generate 600 megawatts, and other small hydro plants. We still have a number of hydro plants which are due to be completed, which are under construction. For example, Nyagak 1, Achua 1, Kakaka, and Chikagati, which are expected to come into production in the middle of next year, 2022. This power generation is diversified across the 5 different sources, including hydro, solar energy, thermal, cogeneration, and biomass, with a combination of both government and the private sector investments. So government is not going it alone, but government is working with the development partners, the private sector, to generate power. The increase in generation capacity over the past 2 years followed the commissioning of 183 megawatt Isimba hydropower project, which was done last year, 2019. There was also Achua, which came into production, producing 42 megawatts of hydroelectric power, which was also done in 2019. Indugutu hydropower plant, which also came into production in 2019, producing 116.5 megawatts. Kiambura, which also produces 7.6 megawatts, and Sindila hydro plant, all were commissioned in 2019. And then we also followed this with commissioning of another power station, Nyagaga 2, which was commissioned 2021. Most of the small hydropower plants were supported by development partners through the Get Fit program. The transmission network has also increased from 29,895 kilometers in 2020 something missing here. Increased from 29,895 kilometers to 3,110 kilometers now. And this consists of 220 kV, 132 kV, 66 kV transmission lines with 25 substations spread across the country. The last decade has increased private investment in the power sector, especially in off-grid electrification. The 2020 Uganda Bureau of Statistics Household Survey indicates that access to electricity has improved from 51% in 2018-2019 to 57% in 2019-2020. This comprises of 19% access to national grid, 38% access through off-grid. Solar kits have proven that off-grid systems have a major role to play in Uganda's race towards universal access to clean energy. However, the increased economic activity in the country, there is need for larger off-grid systems that can power all villages, especially when we are going into the parish model. There are some parishes which are so far from the grid, and we would need to have generation of power which can feed the villages to enable them get the best out of what they produce. So the combination of on-grid and off-grid is something of very importance to enable us move to the next level of development as a country. This therefore calls for more efforts that combines input from demand and supply sides of power, grid and off-grid solutions, all within a framework that is driven by both the public and private sectors. However, we have challenges. Although we have scored heavily in a generation of power, we still have challenges. In the course of doing our work as a sector, we are faced with a number of challenges that delay and increase costs of implementation of major power projects. And the major challenges we face are: one, inadequate financing for the development, investment on development projects such as equity contribution in electricity generation, transmission, and rural electrification projects. Two, vandalism. We experience a lot of vandalism, especially on transmission and distribution. If you went around, you'll find our electricity installations being cut down. The pylons are cut down, dismembered in some areas. Stealing of the conductors, stealing of generators, transformers. They remove the oil from a transformer which is installed, and that makes the line redundant. So vandalism is a very big vice that we need to get rid of. We also face challenges in acquisition of right of the way, especially for transmission. You may have good plans to take power, but because there are speculators who go ahead of the construction of transmission lines, the expectations of the communities are raised, making the acquisition of land extremely expensive. We also face bottlenecks in procurement, especially where we generate and get implementation of projects with development partners, where we have got to always go for no objection at each stage. That causes long delays, and we have recently also had a big delay and challenge of the pandemic, COVID-19. Some of the projects have actually been delayed to conclude because of that. We have sector plans. Currently, as government, we are reviewing key documents that will ease our implementation of the various energy sector plans. For example, we are reviewing our energy policy of 2007. We are also reviewing electricity connectivity policy. We are also reviewing our Electricity Act of 2019. That one has progressed very well. it has been passed by cabinet, and we are now bringing it down to the parliament for its approval. Government under the Sustainable Energy Development Program continues to plan for additional generation capacity using various resources: hydro, geothermal, wind, solar, and nuclear to ensure sustainable supply of electricity, and also to reduce the tariffs. The tariffs are extremely high in certain instances, and we are working how we can reduce the tariffs. Also, we have prioritized the construction of transmission lines, because as we have that high generation of power, transmission lines are extremely important, and we need to improve on our transmission lines. And then uh, construction of substations targeting to supply industrial parks, mining areas, tourist attraction, regional balancing, and regional interconnectivity to enable power exchange with our neighbors. We can achieve a long mileage if we can export power to our neighbors. We know that the power supply in Eastern DRC is low. South Sudan has got challenges, and we also wish to export our power to Kenya. The ministry continues to promote sustainable utilization and development of clean energy resources for social, environmental, and economic benefits of all Ugandans. The solar energy technology is prioritized under the said program to power mini grids for electrification of areas far from the main grid, solar home systems for scattered settlements, solar dryers for value addition, especially of agricultural produce, and ready boards for the rural poor who have difficulty in wiring their houses. The ministry has also prioritized energy efficiency and conservation to reduce energy losses in the industries, in homes, and infrastructure. Utilization of efficient appliances and safe utilization of electricity in our homes is actually given priority in improving the usage of power across the board. In conclusion, Muktano is a very important platform as it brings together key sector players to dialogue on key sector issues geared towards information sharing and sector performance improvement. On that note, I would like to thank the organizers of this meeting for bringing all of us together. In conclusion, all stakeholders to work together for the continued growth and better performance of the energy sector to facilitate economic to facilitate socio-economic development of our country. I wish you all great deliberations, and I look forward to receiving the outcomes of this gathering when you have finished your discussions. I thank you, and for God